Hey, I heard someone wasn't feeling too well.
Oh no, sweet tooth, I can't bear any more of your dreadful shenanigans.
I made you something to make you feel better. Nachos!
I have a fever of 38 degrees centigrade. I don't want nachos.
That's why they're cookie nachos!
Oh, sweet tooth.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at the cookie nachos from Sweet Tooth Goes Euro. Now at this point in the film, Sweet Tooth is only working with what he has in his luggage, which means that everything needs to be non-perishable and checked luggage ready. So that means, at least for the first version, we're using store-bought cookies. I have here some of America's favorite brand of packaged cookies. They taste exactly the same way they did when I was 8. Let's just have one more just to be sure. Yep, yes, confirmed, those are cookies. So the movie accurate version is basically just going to be assembly. We're starting our nachos by spreading out a generous layer of quote-unquote chips, and then in place of cheese, it looked like the cookies were drizzled with marshmallow fluff, which I've briefly microwaved to make it more drizzleable. Then there was definitely a peanut butter sauce of some kind, so I'm going to use peanut butter sauce, chocolate sauce for a chocolatey balance, chocolate chips to stand in for ground beef, I'm not sure, and of course jelly beans to stand in for regular beans. And that's all there is to it. Sweet Tooth's cookie nachos, and look at that, they look almost exactly like the ones from the movie. But how do they taste? I'm going to fix myself a bite, a little bit of everything here, just missing one chocolate chip. Let's give it a try, and unfortunately I caught a bubblegum jelly bean, so it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either, and it's kind of a novel way to serve cookies. So let's see what happens when we make a Babish version. To start, I want to make cookies that resemble tortilla chips in form and function. So I'm combining 3 sticks or 340 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature with 100 grams of sifted powdered sugar in the bowl of a stand mixer. We're mixing these together with a half teaspoon of vanilla extract, at first on low speed until the sugar's absorbed, and then on medium speed for about 1 minute, thoroughly scraping down the bowl halfway through until everything's combined and beginning to become fluffy. You could also just do this with a hand mixer. Then we're adding 400 grams of all-purpose flour mixed together with 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt and combining on medium-low speed for about 1 minute until a thick, stoic dough forms. It shouldn't be too wet or sticky and should be moldable, kind of like Play-Doh. We're turning that out onto some plastic wrap, wrapping it up tight, and pressing and forming it into a disc, or whatever the shape is. Then we're letting it rest in the fridge for at least 30 minutes up to 2 hours. Once we've retrieved our now firm disc, we're dividing it into 2 more workable pieces and turning it out onto a very well-floured work surface. This dough is like mostly butter, so do not be shy with the flour. Then we're going to roll it out to about 1/6 of an inch or 4 millimeters thick, sprinkle it with flaky salt and press it in with the rolling pin, and then bust out the triangular biscuit cutter, re-rolling the scraps and arranging the tortilla cookies on a parchment-lined baking sheet, which we're going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees centigrade, as Carrington would say, until lightly puffed and golden brown around the edges. Let them cool on the sheet. Next up, in place of ground beef, we're going to do some chocolate granola. Into a large bowl goes 1/3 of a cup each corn syrup and maple syrup, 2 tablespoons vegetable oil, 1/2 teaspoon kosher salt, and 1/4 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. Grab a big old whisk and whisk these syrups together into a syrupy syrup. Then we're going to add 2 cups of old-fashioned rolled oats and 1 cup of the nuts of your choice. I'm going with a 1/2 cup of slivered almonds and a 1/2 cup of pecans chopped medium fine. Add those to the bowl and give everything a thorough mixing, making sure that each individual oat and nut is evenly coated in the chocolatey mixture. Then we're spreading that out on parchment or a silpat, spreading it all out into a thin, uniform layer, and baking in a preheated 300 degree Fahrenheit or 150 degrees centigrade, sorry I can't do a British accent, oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Removing the granola halfway through and thoroughly agitating, ensuring not only that the granola is evenly baked, but that it doesn't form too big a cluster. You know it's done when a piece dropped on a metal surface makes a distinct tink, as though it were a pebble or a piece of granola. Allow this to cool completely on the tray. Next up, in place of pico de gallo or salsa, I wanted to make a sort of strawberry pico de gallo. So I'm stemming and dicing a pound of strawberries, reserving a few for garnish. And the only white fruit that I could think of at the time was dragon fruit. I'm realizing now that coconut might have been much more appropriate, but sometimes you don't think of the right thing until you're doing the voiceover about it. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of freshly chopped mint in place of the dreaded cilantro. Last up, we're going to macerate these berries with 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, mixing up and allowing to stand at room temperature for for about 30 minutes. Next up, in place of beans, I thought we'd do candied peanuts, which are, after all, a kind of bean, or legume, but same difference. We're combining 6 ounces of peanuts, a third of a cup of sugar, and a quarter cup of water in a medium saute pan, cooking over medium-low heat until the sugar forms a crystallized shell around the peanuts and begins to lightly remelt and sort of caramelize about 30 minutes. Remove it from the heat and spread it out on a parchment-lined baking sheet to cool, making sure to spread out into an even layer so that the peanuts do not cluster. Last but not least, the marshmallow fluff, which there's very few reasons why you should make this at home, but if you want to, here you go. We're combining 3 large egg whites and a quarter teaspoon of cream of tartar in the bowl of a stand mixer. Then, over on the stovetop, we're combining 150 grams of sugar, 75 grams of water, and 225 grams of corn syrup in a small saucepan. We're then bringing it to a vigorous but controlled boil and cooking until it reaches 240 degrees Fahrenheit. When it's around 233, 235 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to head back over to the stand mixer and begin beating our egg whites so that they're nice and frothy by the time our sugar mixture is ready. We don't want stiff peaks, we'll call them snotty peaks. Then, once the sugar mixture has reached 240 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to very slowly, very scarily drizzle it down the side of the bowl of the stand mixer, while the mixer is running on medium-high, creating a meringue, otherwise known as marshmallow fluff. Now, ideally, I want this to be drizzleable without having to microwave it, but as you can see, it's pretty stiff. Attempts to add water only made the fluff lighter in texture without making it thinner, but the addition of fat in the form of 6 tablespoons of melted butter ended up giving the fluff the consistency that I was looking for. So now all there is left to do is assemble our cookie nachos. We're starting as we would with any nachos, with a layer of chips, followed by a layer of cheese, or in our case, our drizzleable marshmallow fluff, channeling our best Jackson Pollock and generously coating each chip with marshmallowy goodness. Next up, the chocolate granola, and since I want it to resemble ground beef and not destroy the tops of anyone's mouths, I'm crumbling it into nice little pieces for a delightful added crunch. Then, in place of beans, we have our candied peanuts, and then I'm going to garnish with a few raw strawberries to resemble tomatoes, and a little more mint to resemble cilantro. And there you have it, our Babish version cookie nachos, replete with a strawberry and dragon fruit pico de gallo. But how do they taste? And what I'm most thrilled with here are the cookies. They're super buttery and tender and short, but they have better tensile strength than most tortilla chips. So try those out and top them up however you like your cookie nachos.
That's not bad.
Cookie nachos.
Oh.